Well, it's cooking. So I told you the story about Saint Erica yesterday, and how I had been given the Handbook to Higher Consciousness, and I read it over 2 days. And actually what happened was I said I finished it at 8:05 in the morning. It was actually around 6:30 in the morning when I finished it. And as I was saying to you, half the crap in my life was gone. See, when your mind is playing games with you, and that's what all that crap in your head is a mind game, the second you realize that, you dilute the game. You may even, like I did in my case, eliminate whole pieces of the game. Your mind says, oh, okay, I'm done. You caught me. I've been here. My job to piss this guy off. You caught me. I'll stop doing it. Okay? So, the effect of reading that was so powerful, in my perception. Now, you have to understand, this is 35 years ago. If we still got people with their heads up their ass today, you got to believe 35 years ago there were a lot more of them. None of this stuff was there. You know, the thing that, excuse me, I got this crap, I can't get rid of it. Old age stuff, you know? The thing that I could not believe or understand after I finished that book, I kind of put it down and I said to myself, how the hell could that happen? How could I have been as developed a man as I thought I was? You know, we all think we're developed, and most of the time we're not. But what we think we do makes us feel good. And I really thought I was the guy who had my shit together. I always had a good attitude and good skills, you know, discipline, all that other stuff. But all of this stuff in the handbook was new to me. It actually almost foreign. And I asked myself, how the heck, why didn't I hear about it? And the answer is pretty simple. The handbook, you might even argue, is derived from, in Ken's journeys to heal himself, he was obviously touched by all this mystical stuff that comes out of the East, and he integrated it into his life and created the 12 pathways, prescriptions for happiness, and all the other stuff that he gives us. The interesting thing about that was that, how do I want to say this? Here's why. You would have thought that if it's that good, and I'm telling you it's that good, that it would have permeated. Everyone would be talking about it. You'd just hear about it everywhere. You know what's going on with this mystical stuff? But no. See, the United States is a Judeo-Christian country. At least now it's a Judeo-Christian Islamic country because there's been an influx of Muslims into the mainstream culture of the United States, and there's always a couple of Jains and some Buddhists and all those other guys. But what happens is, I don't know, let's say there's 300 million people in the United States. I think there's actually more than that. Arguably, 200 million of them are Christians. And maybe another 70 or 80 million are Jews. I don't know, by no means am I implying that these are legitimate statistics. But all the men and women in politics and all the men and women in authority in this country at that time held one of those beliefs true to themselves. And if you got a true belief, you don't want anybody talking about other stuff, because other stuff will disrupt your belief system. Yeah, one of my greatest first tests, I was 17 years old. No, 18, because I was on my way to Japan. I was in the Marine Corps. I went in the Marine Corps when I was 17. I went to boot camp. I went to my schools. And now I have orders to go to Japan. This is April of 1961. Yeah, April 1961. Okay. And I rode myself, a guy who was the best man at my wedding, Stan Fawn, and a lady Marine named Anna Zacabe, make the trek from Memphis, Tennessee, where we were stationed, to the West Coast. Anna lived in Los Angeles, because Stan had a car. It seems to me it was a 55 Ford with a 56 Mercury engine in it, beefed up a little bit. We drove cross country and averaging over 75 miles an hour. And just an incredible drive. And Anna, nice lady, she brought us to our home, and so we could clean up. You ride in a car for 35 hours, you're going to stink like a goat. I don't care if you got air conditioning or not, but we didn't have air conditioning. And Anna's father was a man regarded in his community as a living saint. It appears that in his youth, he had experienced the appearance of an angel. I don't know whether that's real or not, but I know Uncle Jimmy believed that. And his presentation of it was so profound that so did everybody who talked to him. And basically, long story short, he was working in his family's grocery store. A burglar came in, put a gun in his face and said, "Give me your money." And an angel appeared and scared the guy away. And from that moment on, Uncle Jim was a marked man. He was a Christian, and he believed to the heart of his depth that it was absolutely impossible for a human being to get to heaven without knowing the Christ, without surrendering to the Christ. Well, even when I was 18, I was kind of a dick. Guys like that are real pushy. And that's just the way it is. I no talk about this. So I challenged him. And the argument that I challenged him with was an Aboriginal child living in a place where no Christian missionary had ever gotten to, who worshiped collectively along with his tribe the great tree. And the great tree was a living symbol of God and all of his wonder. And that little boy grew into a man, a proud man who worked his life off, and he adhered to all of the tenets that were presented to his people as being from the great tree vis-a-vis God. So, took 3 hours. Uncle Jimmy said, can't get to heaven without Jesus. And finally he said, yeah, I suppose that if that man did everything that he was supposed to do, and he lived that pure life, he was going to go to heaven. I'll bet it killed him to admit that. It's not why I did it. I guess I did it to find out if I could, maybe. You know? So I know Uncle Jimmy's gone a long time ago, and I'm truly sorry for what I did to you, sir. But it set me on the road, you know, and here I am, 77, going to be 77 in another 6 weeks, I guess 5 weeks, whatever it is. Oh, not even that. Christ, the middle of June, I'm maybe 3 weeks away from being 77. It started me on this journey that has brought me to you. So what it points out is that it validates the reason why those guys don't want you talking to anybody. So in when did this happen? This happened in probably 1982. Nobody was talking about mystical stuff. The Judeo-Christian community just blocked all of that. They simply weren't going to get in, guys. They just weren't going to let that stuff on. That's why we never heard of it. It was so completely, you know, all the radio stations, all the TV stations, all those things are controlled by those guys. Oh, crap, I don't have a parking space. This is really irritating. I'm going to go park downstairs. All right, that's fine. This is why I'm going to be so disruptive to you and to the system. Because I want you to understand that God is just God. He's not a Christian God or a Jewish God or a Muslim God or a Jain God or a Buddhist God or whatever other kind of religion you can identify in your efforts to identify religion. He's just God. So as you begin to understand how other people come to complete peace and understanding and love and bliss by dealing with their version of God, it kind of forces you to say that, well, maybe mine isn't the only one. And the second that creeps in, Mustard seed, Jesus, one seed, boom, big tree. You wind up surrendering to it. You don't have any choice. You simply have to say to yourself, holy Christ, maybe. And that's when the door opens. That's when you suddenly start remembering the things that came in, and you just kind of intellectually blocked them because you don't want to challenge. The second you start challenging what you believe, your mind goes into a disruptive period because it don't know what the hell to do with it. Especially if the new information that you get is so powerful that it changes who you are. That's what higher consciousness does. I asked my master Ken Kais once, how come there wasn't any mention of God in the Handbook to Higher Consciousness? And he gave me what may be the best answer I've ever heard to that question, because I asked it of a lot of people. He said, he said, God is a concept of deep center and quiet. When you go deep in and become quiet, God comes. He fills the void. He fills the void. As long as you're out here dealing with life in all of its aspects, God's not coming into that. Now, if you're deeply centered and you're working out, that's a whole different thing. But you're moving through what you do at peace. I just flow. I don't care if it's good or bad, if I win or not. None of that matters. Because I'm here to serve. Just to serve. And from that, I derive enough to sustain me. If I'm a good servant, you guys will determine this, then I will get what I need to keep myself in sustenance and all of the other things that you would like to have if you were in my position, or I was in your position, for example. Going back now to when Erica gave me the book and I read the book. I actually finished it at 6:30 in the morning, and I sat down on my couch. I had a little one-bedroom apartment, and I said, this is nuts. This is nuts. How could reading a stupid-ass book clear half the shit out of my head over a 2-day period? How can that happen? I had to know. So actually what happened, 8:05 is a critical time. At 8:05, I called the publisher of the Handbook to Higher Consciousness, and I said, I need to meet the man who wrote this book. And the young lady that was talking to me on the phone said, well, it's pretty, we don't get too many requests like that. Why do you need to see him, sir? I said that he is either the wisest man that I've ever been blessed to come across, or he's the world's greatest plagiarizer. I don't care. He knows all kinds of things that I don't know, and I want to go find out about them. That's how the relationship between a student and a master is established. For those of you guys who don't have a working master, I offer myself to you. I'll get you along the way. I'll show you all kinds of things that'll bring joy and love into your heart and into your life. And maybe even give you the one thing that you haven't had up until now, is guidance. If you're going to push the envelope, and please, 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 push the envelope. Don't believe anything. Don't believe me. I'm just a full of shit old guy. Except sometimes I know stuff. Suck those things out of me. Like you suck all the life and throw me away. When you're done with me, throw me away. If I've done a good job for you, what'll happen is one day the magnitude of that job will occur to you. And a huge pulse of love will go out. That's when your inner being says, thank you, BHAGWAN. Couldn't have done it without you. Just like what I said to Ken. Thank you, Master. Could not have done it without you. Rajneesh, the master teacher who succeeded Ken in my personal evolution. Wow. See, Ken prepared me. Got me ready for the real shit. And then Rajneesh opened the door. Filled the door. Ken was working from pain. He discovered what he knew because he was in pain. Rajneesh was just there to discover, and I'll talk about him. We're right at the end of the clock. I have to go play cribbage. Remember I told you I play cribbage? I was on my way to cribbage this time, just like I was on another time when I talked to you. I really love you guys. This is getting really good. You're going to like it. I love you.